Hey everyone, Rick here with Movement Mortgage, and I wanted to take a minute today to record a little something different than my normal stuff that I do. And I wanted to introduce you guys, if you don't already know, one of the best real estate instructors and investors that I've come across predominantly through Greater Tampa Realtors is Josh Cadillac. And so we just want to talk for a minute about some of the classes that are coming up and just kind of keep it a little more conversational to talk about some of the topics that we're talking about that he's been focusing on right now. So how are you doing today, Josh?
Rick, I'm hanging out with you, buddy. It's going to be a good day, man. It's going to be a good day.
That's awesome. So obviously, right now there's a lot of stuff going on in the economy. Interest rates are higher. Inflation. The Fed thinks they have it under control, but maybe they don't with the latest CPI report that came out. So,
Sure.
what are you? What's on your mind when it comes to inflation and rates and things like that, and real estate in general?
I think it's really an interesting question, and it's the reason why I'm actually taking that class that I'm going to be teaching there, that inflation class. I'm probably going to be changing the name of the class to just simply a class on market knowledge, something about being fearless, fearlessly knowing what your market is about, because I love teaching that class so much because I have a blanket go ahead and you're going to get 3 hours of CE to let's talk about the market where it is today, the history of your product, what your product does when these type of pressures are applied to it. So I think to answer your question, what I think is going on, I think that student loan repayment starting up in October is going to make for a very interesting environment. It's about $21.8 billion a month coming out of discretionary spending. That's got to have an adverse effect on spending and theoretically should slow inflation. But if you want to throw a counterweight to that, the UAW is currently in strike looking for, they've already been given 17 to 20% as a raise. They spit on that. They're looking for just under 40% now for a raise and going from a 40-hour work week to a 32-hour work week. So if you don't think that an increase in wages like that is going to have a net result to the economy, to the market, then you're not really understanding what it is that allows the driving of purchasing in general. And if you don't have a foundational understanding of how a market works, you're not able to really be the resource that customers are looking for. The cool thing is most agents don't do that. So when you are the agent that does do that, you immediately stand out in front of your customer like, oh, gee, this is something way different than what I'm used to.
Yeah.
And this is what breeds what we're always talking about, that ability to take and give customers an experience they don't feel like they can replicate or duplicate someplace else. The actual art of closing a customer for life.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot. Obviously right now, across the board, and whether it's in mortgage lending or in real estate in general, business is down. And the agents that are succeeding and thriving right now are the ones that are doubling down on their efforts, right? Their marketing, their farming, their prospecting, and are doing that more so because the whole name of the game right now is taking market share. So a lot of the agents and LOs and on our side, they got into the business in 2020 and 2021 because money was falling from the trees. They're not surviving right now. 50,000 LOs have dropped out of the business this year, and they're expecting that to go potentially up to 80,000. And so a lot of us that are dedicated and 100% bought in this business, we're the ones that are not necessarily excited, but looking forward to the opportunity to really set ourselves apart right now, take that market share so that when we come out on the other side of this, whenever or whatever that's going to look like, that we're not only doing well, but we're able to significantly capitalize on that. And so
Sure.
having the product knowledge, having the market knowledge, like in your classes, specifically the one we're talking about, guys, is on November 7th, 1 p.m., or excuse me, 12 p.m. at Greater Tampa Realtors in person. Josh is teaching the class that he currently is titling Dealing with an Inflationary Market and Why Real Estate is the Answer. So that's what we're trying to plug right now, and we really want you guys to be there in person for it. I'm going to, in this email and in the social media post that accompany it, I'm going to have a link to sign up for it as well, too. And what else have you got going on, Josh, on that same day?
Well, I mean, I think that it's really awesome that you're talking about that. That morning class, I think it's 9 to noon, like you were saying. That morning class is going to be setting you up to do kind of what Rick is saying, to give you the tools to stand out in this herd that is going to be thinning. Guys, whenever sales volume is down, the herd thins. He's talking about loan officers dropping out. I'll give you one guess what's happening with real estate agents, whether they're coming in or dropping out. They're dropping like flies. The question is, Are you going to be one of the ones left standing? And that is a question that only you can answer based upon your willingness to do what it takes to provide something the customer can't get someplace else. In a hot market, all you got to do is hook customers up with properties. That's it. Any dummy can do that. You pass the test, fogged up a mirror. Here's your license. Yeah, go ahead. Go sling real estate. But now is where it separates. So what does they used to say? They separate the men from the boys, right? This is where you separate the folks that know what they're doing from the folks that don't know what they're doing. And it's up to you whether or not you're willing to take and have the commitment to your craft, to your business, to do what's required to make that happen, to provide you with the tools and resources you need to get that done. I'm not saying that's necessarily my class, but it is taking the class, getting the stuff that's going to separate you, having the people like I know Rick does. I listen to Rick. Rick is always looking for that innovative way to get the deal done. The deal that the other LOs out there maybe miss because they're too busy trying to figure out where business is going to come from rather than closing the business they have right there in front, finding the ways to get it done. Folks, that's what separates us, right? That's what separates the ones that stick for the ones that go. The ones that go make up the vast majority of the market. The turnover is brutal. You got to have it be something different. The second class that we're doing that day, actually, Rick, to your question, is my 4-hour class on contracts. So we're going to look at what's changed in the contract. Obviously, folks, if I'm asking somebody to sign a contract, I have to know what the hell's in there. I got to know I got to be able to talk about it. Because if you say, hey, I need you to sign this, and they're like, well, what is this about here? And you're like, oh, I don't know. Let me take a look. Any credibility you may have somehow gotten is out the window. You just asked them to sign something that you don't understand. If you want to talk about a cardinal sin right there, that's one you can never get away from. Right? You just asked them to sign something and you didn't know what it was. Folks, there's no excuse. So that class is a lot about what's actually in the contract. And I spend a bunch of time also talking about how to get contracts signed, how to present them in such a way, what that phone call needs to sound like, what you need to be thinking about when you talk to that other agent, all the stuff, the guts of what takes you from an agent that's barely surviving to an agent that's thriving because you've taken everything you know into account to try to do it better.
Yeah, I love that because there have been changes to the contracts in Florida this year. And if you're caught by surprise on something, then again, you're not going to look like you're 100% on your game. And on our side, it's very similar in the sense that underwriting guidelines are changing sometimes on a weekly and monthly basis. The government agencies, so Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA, USDA, they're all tightening up their lending standards right now. And the LOs that are in the throes right now dealing with those things and getting ahead of them are the ones that, again, are going to eliminate issues. I hate seeing, and the same thing can happen with a contract. I hate seeing when a listing goes back on the market, buyer financing fell through. Because on my side, that doesn't happen, honestly. It may have happened a couple times in my career, and it was something that was typically outside of my control. But still, asking the right questions up front and understanding the guidelines, understanding the contracts is going to eliminate issues. And right now, we can't afford our credibility to take any hit. And again, by investing in our education, not only are we avoiding risk, we're adding value.
Absolutely. And adding value to your primary piece of production equipment, which is you. You got to understand, guys, you build into you. If you're unwilling to invest in yourself, well, what the heck does that say about your business and yourself and how you view yourself? There's nothing good that comes from an unwillingness to commit to the career that you're in. And once again, guys, I'm not here to take and sell you my class. It doesn't matter to me whether there's 50 people or 5 people or 500 people. It's all the same to me. But at the end of the day, it's your willingness to go out there and help you be the best you can be. You're stuck with you for the rest of your life, guys. I mean, go out there and get out of yourself what you can. And I mean, to Rick's point, actually, later that same week, I'm going to be teaching in Tampa a class called Dealing with the Deal Killers. And it's how to deal with all those things that are outside of your control. What do you do when you use a guy different than Rick, some mortgage broker that drops the ball? What if you're the listing agent and that mortgage broker's dropping the ball? Who doesn't get paid? Nobody gets paid, right?
None of us.
How to take a deal with all the other things. So like almost all my classes, Rick, let's be honest, there's going to be a little bit of a guilt trip at the beginning of like, hey, this is what you don't know. This is what you should know.
Yeah.
Why didn't you know this? Deal with the deal killers is really, what do you do when everybody else screws up? What's the best ways to take and get around that? How do you cut that off of the pass and minimize things like other agents wrecking your day? I mean, God knows I have a laundry list in that class: lazy agents, new agents, arrogant agents. You go through the list, uncommutative agents, how to take and deal with every one of these best practices to try to get what you need out of the deal done, which is a happy customer on your end that would never do business with anybody but you ever again.
Close for life.
That's
So
it, brother.
I love it. Well, I could talk to you all day long. You always get me motivated. It's a Monday today. It's always a little bit of a drag getting back into the grind, but I appreciate your optimism, your knowledge, and just your encouragement as a friend. So we're gonna make sure you have links to Josh's website. You can just go to joshcadillac.com and see all the courses that he teaches at various realtor associations across the state. But we're specifically talking about here coming up in November at Greater Tampa Realtors. And you can check the events calendar on GTR's website, and I'll make sure you guys have that info as well too. So Josh, my man, I appreciate you. And I look forward to sponsoring those classes and seeing you again, and hopefully getting a good group of agents, whether it's 5 or 10. Even a contracts class that has the ability to be potentially boring. I know you're going to make it lively and you're going to bring value to it. So I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Rick. Thanks always for having me, bud.
Yes, absolutely.